Hello there, I'm Nathalia Melo, your Unfiltered Fit BFF. Mom of two turned CEO of a fitness empire. Someone who truly understands the struggles of trying to stay fit, sane, and sexy, all while juggling work, life, and motherhood. And this is the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast. Follow along wherever you're listening and join me weekly as I help busy working moms just like you simplify your fitness journey so you can lose fat, regain your confidence, and feel sexy AF. It's time to stop living in the what ifs and hiding from the cameras. It's time to regain control over your body, feel sexy naked, and wear a bikini confidently. People already see you as a super confident woman, but it's time for you to feel the same way too. Come on, let's go. Hello there, fam. Welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast. I'm Nathalia Melo, your host. And if you have ever heard that women are not small men, so we need to train differently, that you need to buy this specific supplement that is designed for women. If you have been told that because you're a woman, you need to do things incredibly different, this episode is for you. Today, I'm going to be breaking it down with the 7 biggest lies sold to women in the fitness industry right now. So if you have been feeling overwhelmed and confused, this episode is for you. And the thing is that it is no surprise that the fitness industry is trying to confuse people. And I feel like that with the method of the attention span of most people right now is very short, we're getting more and more outrageous. As an industry, it's getting more and more outrageous with claims to grab people's attention. And the problem with that is that the information given lacks context. I've talked a lot about this, and that's actually one of the reasons why I started this podcast, because there was a lot that I wanted to say to piggyback on what I was talking about on social media. But on social media, there wasn't enough attention span to give the whole context. And I was like, I don't want to be doing like clickbaity stuff. I want to make sure that I'm giving the whole context of everything. So that's actually the main reason why this podcast was created. And have you noticed how the fitness industry loves to hand women a set of rules that contradict each other? Like all the time. First you hear, oh, you cannot train fast. It is absolutely the worst. You wreck your hormones. And then in the same breath, like you go to another slide and somebody else posts like, oh my goodness, intermittent fasting is the secret to fat loss. And if you're having breakfast, you're a piece of shit and you need to fast for like 75 days. Or then you have one day somebody saying, oh, you need 40 grams of protein within the 45 minutes of lifting and you need to, go into the anabolic window. And then the next one, you have somebody saying, well, meal timing doesn't really matter. Like you just need to make sure that you're eating enough protein. And then you're like, okay, so which one is it? Like and you start to slowly become paralyzed with the confusion. And then another one that is common is like, oh, women shouldn't train like a man because, women need different workouts because hormones. And then you go to another post and then you have someone that you trust saying, strongest than you is skinny. You got to lift heavy. And you're like, okay, which one is it? Because men lift heavy and I'm being told that I cannot train like a man. But then I have somebody else that looks great that is telling me that strongest than you is skinny and like I need to lift heavy. So how heavy is too heavy? Like what is the threshold that I'm not training like quote unquote like a man, but that is not so light that I end up just being skinny? Or then we have, oh, you need to train around your cycle because, your menstrual cycle is going to dictate the hormonal fluctuation and that's how you're going to maximize results. And then you literally go to somewhere else and then it's like, you know what? Like it doesn't matter. Consistency is going to be what matters. You just have to show up and see how you feel. And you're like, okay, so which one is it? Because at this point, I don't even know how I feel anymore because I also have these 75,000 gadgets that I have been told that I need to measure my glucose, to measure how tired I am, to measure how recovered I am, to measure how many calories I burn. And I have all these things. So I don't even know what my body is feeling. And then you do nothing. You do absolutely nothing. And it's absolutely no wonder that so many women are stuck. Like that is one of the biggest things that I hear from women every single time. I don't know what to do because there is so much information and I'm getting all this information and then I don't even know where to start. And I have a name for this. It's like paralysis by analysis. And I want you to know that you're not failing, because if you haven't been able to move past the paralysis from all the information, from, listening to different podcasts, which thank you for being here. I know that there is a lot that you can be listening to, and you choose to be here. And that's why I want to make sure that we're maximizing our time together for me to simplify this process for you, because it's very easy to feel like you're failing. You're failing everywhere, that you suck, that you're doing something wrong, that you're broken. So I want you to know that you're not failing because you're lazy or inconsistent or undisciplined or unmotivated or whatever word you want to use to describe why you're stuck. The reason why you haven't accomplished your fitness goal is probably because you have been fed this laundry list of rules and things that overcomplicate the process. And the thing is that they sound real, because these people are talking in, like, they're saying these hard, difficult words that I don't even know how to fucking spell them. And then you're like, oh my goodness, like, they sound so smart. But here's the thing. If somebody knows enough about something, they will be able to talk about it without having to flex all the difficult words and all the science-y that they feel the need to communicate. If you know enough about a topic, you'll be able to converse and relay your expertise in a manner that anybody can understand. And a moment, a come to Jesus moment for me in regards to this was, I had two actually. One of them was attending events, and, courses and things like that, where the person teaching felt so desperate for the validation of being the smartest person in the room that this person started to, like, and listen, I have been in the fitness industry for 27 years. And whenever this person was speaking, I was like, I have no fucking clue what this guy is saying. Like, no idea. Like, there were so many jargons being utilized, and I'm looking around, and half of the room had significantly less experience than I did. And they were all nodding, pretending that they were understanding. And I raised my arm and I'm like, what did you just say? Like, what all those words mean? And whenever I asked that person to break it down and almost like, quote unquote, dumb it down, that person wasn't able to. And that told me everything that I needed to know. If you need to be speaking on these jargons and you're not able to simplify the process in a way that anybody can understand, you don't know enough about it. And my second come to Jesus moment was with my kids. My kids asked the best questions, and I tried to surface level talk to them about the way that we eat and the impact that it makes in our performance and the big muscles, and explaining to them what protein is and things like that. And they asked, but why? What do you mean? And having to kind of simplify the language for them helped me gain more clarity on what is actually important and what is just noise. And I think that that's the moment that we're living in the fitness industry, is that there is a lot of noise being created by people that don't even know what noise they're making. So this is what I want to clarify today. All the lies that are being sold, especially to women. This episode is going to be all about women. Because if you're listening to all these things and whenever you ask the reasoning behind, it's hard for you to even understand the reasoning behind because the person is speaking in jargon. They don't want you to understand, because most people, I like to believe that they do have common sense. And if the person who is speaking jargons really explain what they mean in normal language and normal terms, people are going to be able to spot that what they're saying is bullshit. So it all comes down to it all being a bit of a marketing spin. I mean, the wellness and the fitness and wellness industry is, hold on, I'm gonna look it up. The health and fitness industry, according to what I'm seeing here, is like $100+ billion industry. So if people want to complicate stuff, because whenever they complicate something, they can, quote unquote, sell you the solution. And whenever you simplify things too much, then there is not much that you can sell. And listen, I have a program that I sell. I do. I am a fitness coach. But what we like to do in my program is actually the opposite. I want to simplify it for you. I want you to understand. I want you to go into places and have knowledge to be able to make educated choices on your own. So today I'm going to be debunking the 7 biggest lies being sold to women right now. And my goal is to help you stop second guessing every choice that you make, second guessing yourself or beating yourself up because you think that you're lazy, inadequate, or that you're doing everything wrong, and get out of that analysis by paralysis and focus on what actually matters for results that last. How can we simplify the process as much as possible? That way you can get results and keep them. Because these like splitting hairs over shit that doesn't matter or just these plain flat out lies are doing a disservice because everybody's already busy. And then if you have to add all this extra stuff on top of the already busyness of life, we keep on elevating the barrier of entry and making it more and more difficult for women to do something, anything. Like at this point, it's about doing anything. So the first lie that women are being sold is that women should never train fasted. And if you don't know what fasted is, fasted training is whenever you don't eat before you train. And we went through a phase where everything was about fasted cardio because, it maximized fat oxidation and maximized fat loss. But then we've had a lot of research that has come out since that says that at the end of the day, yes, the fat oxidation in the beginning of the day after training, like if you train fasted, the fat oxidation after you train is heightened immediately after training. But then it starts to taper down towards the end of the day. And then whenever you look at somebody that does it fasted, who does a fad cardio or fad training, that fat oxidation immediately after training is not as much as whenever it is fasted. However, at the end of the day, they level out. So you're basically talking about 6 or half a dozen. It's the same thing, just the way that you get there is a little bit different. So this has been for the longest time, we were told to do fasted cardio. And then now we have, fitness people. I don't even like to call professionals because the extrapolation of the data is like disturbing, but I digress. So women are now being told that if they train fasted, oh my goodness me, it's going to be a hormonal disaster. And here is where the context is important and where context matter. Some women do fine when they train fasted. Other women feel like they're not well if they don't train fasted. So it really comes down to finding out what works best for you. I'm going to use myself as an example, okay? And obviously this is like my own personal experience, but the data supports this as well. If I eat before I train, my performance absolutely tanks. Like even if I have a coffee with too much creamer before I do any kind of like more high intensity kind of training, it feels like the coffee is sitting funny on the side of my throat. And I feel like I'm going to vomit at any given time. So I'm not able to push myself as much because I feel the whole time that I'm going to be sick with whatever it is that I'm doing. So for someone like me, that if I eat something before training, it impacts my performance because I feel like I'm going to be sick. Like, does it mean that I'm going to disappear? Because your ability to stay consistent and your ability to push yourself is much more significant and impactful than splitting hairs, whether you should have had a protein shake or eggs or apple or banana or whatever the fuck versus not having it if it's going to impact your performance. And on the other side, if you are someone that if you don't eat and whenever you get there, you feel weak and you don't feel like you can push yourself, then yes, absolutely eat before you train because that is going to impact how you perform. And the bigger picture here is the bigger issue is the chronically underfueling yourself and not if you're training at 6 a.m. before or after breakfast. It is about ensuring that you are consuming adequate protein, adequate calories to support your activities and that are aligned with your goals. Being if your goal is fat loss, then you need to be in a slight caloric deficit. I'm not saying starve yourself, but you're going to have to be in a slight caloric deficit. When that calorie deficit is created is absolutely irrelevant. So the whole idea, and it becomes exhausting. Like I was even getting confused that I was saying fasted, not fasted, fad. Like I was even getting confused because I feel like we're splitting hairs over stuff that in the grand scheme of things. Like, and here's the other thing. Let's say that someone tells me, women, like this is my personal experience. Somebody tells me, Natalia, it's terrible for you to train fasted. It's horrible. You're going to mess up your body. And I'm going to be like, holy shit. Like, so I have to eat before I train. But then I know that if I eat, I'm going to feel sick whenever I'm training. What do you think that that is going to do with my consistency as well? Because chances are that I'm probably going to start to dread going to the gym and I'm going to, have to wait all this time until after I eat in order to be able to train so I don't get sick. This is going to have a significant impact on my ability to stay consistent because I'm going to start dreading that activity because now I incorporated something that doesn't make me feel good. So that's when we also need to listen to our own bodies and have that biofeedback on how we feel and make decisions based on that. So that's the first one. Then number two, this one, I can do a whole podcast on this, but anyway, women need to have X amount of protein immediately after the training because otherwise you're going to like fall apart and your muscles are going to disappear because there is something called an anabolic window. You guys, I remember in the very beginning of my career, like it was a little bit after the very beginning, but fairly beginning of my career, we were already debunking the whole idea of anabolic window. And if you don't know what an anabolic window is, I'm going to explain to you. An anabolic window is something that, interestingly enough, there was a study published by a researcher called Brad Schoenfeld, and I think Alan Aragon was part of that study too, that talked about the importance of that anabolic window, which is the time, the 45 minutes up to an hour, I think, but I think it was more like 45 minutes, the optimal time that you had to consume protein immediately after your training. Because if you did not, it was like all your gains would be lost. Everything that you had done in your training had gone down the drain, and it was almost like you lost everything. Like you just wasted the whole workout that you had because you didn't have protein in that window, which has been coined as anabolic window. So here's the interesting part, and that's one thing that I love about research. I personally know Brad Schoenfeld. He is a phenomenal researcher, also know Alan Aragon. They conducted meta-analysis and other like researches, and they were like, oh, hold on a second. Now that we're looking at the data, we were wrong. Like anabolic window is not what we thought that it was. I mean, it's still important to have, eat something after training, especially something that is more like protein dense. But that window is more like a freaking roof, like open rooftop, rather than just a window. The time is a lot longer than what has been thought. So the actual researchers that talked about the anabolic window and coined the anabolic window have since then done other meta-analysis and other researches to be like, you know what? There is really no significant advantage to consuming protein immediately after training if your daily protein intake was adequate. The anabolic window is a lot bigger than the 30, 45 minutes that was initially like thought to be. And it's more like, 3 to 6 window or 6 hours, depending on when you ate last. Meaning, and here it goes back to the fasted. So if you wake up and you train fasted, you're already coming from a state where you haven't eaten from a long time. So it is likely recommended that you have something to eat within that first like 3 hours after you finish training. So the whole conversation around anabolic window and having to eat something immediately after training has already been debunked repeatedly by the actual researcher that has coined the term anabolic window. So why are we going back to that when it has been proven time and time again that your total daily protein intake matters infinitely more than obsessing over how many molecules of protein you have within 35 minutes in 52 seconds after your training. Again, this is just an unnecessary way to complicate fitness and create more friction than it is necessary, and to make people feel, especially women, that they're doing everything wrong. So it is like, it's not a thing. Like, you do not need to, like, for example, again, I'm going to use myself as an example. All right. If I had a very hard training session, I feel like a little bit nauseous, like not absolutely nauseous, but my stomach is not like, woo, like give me food. I need a little bit of time for it to settle and for me to be like, okay, now I'm hungry. If I try to eat immediately after I train, it feels like there is a little bit of a knot in the top of my stomach because I wasn't ready. So again, it comes down to that. What is more optimal? What is best? Is it for me to follow that imaginary regulations? Because this one is just a flat out non-issue about having to have protein within a period of time. So I have that protein within that period of time, and then I feel like absolute dog crap for the remainder of the day because I have that knot sitting on the top of my stomach because I didn't give my body enough time to kind of like settle a little bit and then be able to eat the things that I actually enjoy too. So this is another issue with lies they're being told to women. Number 3. This one is going to require a lot of context, so stay with me here, which is that women should not train like men. And we can go in 2 different directions here. We have the direction of like, oh, women, shouldn't lift very heavy because their bodies is not made for that. And, you need to get the pink dumbbell and you should do this kind of intensity, like high intensity circuit kind of training. Bullshit. Women benefit from progressive overload, from compound lifts, from lifting heavy weights in, as close to failure as possible. You don't have to train to failure every time, but as close to failure as possible. And a structured programming, just like men have been doing for a long time. Like whenever men were in the weight room, women were doing the Jen Fonda kind of like fist pumping up in the air and like the leotards and stuff like that, because you was taught that was the best. And so in this context, no, it doesn't matter. From the application perspective, the volume, the recovery, the life stage, the fundamental of progressive overload, which means doing more over time, be that doing more reps, having more range of motion, lifting more weights. This is what progressive overload is. It applies for men and women alike. Where there can be a difference where women should not train like men is more goal-based. For example, a very good example that happened actually yesterday. I was recording content yesterday, and the videographers that helped me record, we come together and we have some ideas. And then he was like, what are your tips for like growing calf? And I'm like, what? And then he goes, yeah, like what tips would give women that want to grow calf? I'm like, you mean like calf muscles? And then he was like, yeah. And I'm like, I haven't spoken with many women that the first thing that comes to their mind is that they want to grow their calf muscles. Like I hear a lot about, they want to work on their booty or they want to improve like their arm fat whenever they're like waving and things like that. But I don't think in my, 20 something years in fitness, 16, 17 being a coach, that I have ever had a woman that came to me and she was like, you know what? I want amazing, just the calves. And that's when he hit me. So yes, women build muscle the same way as men do. However, women from a more like goal perspective, they have different goals. Meaning for most men, chest days every day. And then they will do chest a whole bunch of times, like 2 or 3 times a week. I don't know. But for women, it's like, I don't really give a shit about my chest. Like it's a muscle, like it's a set of muscles. So I can get that done like very briefly in one session, but I don't really care about that. But for women, you'd be important to focus on their legs and their booty. But for most men, like there are plenty of men that don't even train legs. So the difference wouldn't be on the physiological ability to build muscle through specific types of training, but the difference is more related to the ultimate goal. Men and women have different goals. So they might not be able to do the exact same routine, not because they have different muscles or because they have different, makeup of body molecules or like, muscle and fat, but just because they have different goals. Like I wouldn't want to do my husband's workout because he does shoulders about 500 times a week and then back another 700 times a week. And then he splashes leg from time to time. I'm like, no, I like to train my lower body. So this is where the difference lies. It's not a physiological difference. It's more of a goal difference. And it has nothing to do with women not benefiting from like progressive overload, that it doesn't apply to them. Yes, women benefit from progressive overload because that is the way to build muscle. So that's another lie that is women are being told. Now let's go to the fourth lie. This one, that women and it's driving me crazy because I'll go on social media and there's like, whenever you are on your luteal phase, you just need to relax and which that's point number 4. The lie is that women should train around their period and their menstrual cycle. And period syncing has been debunked repeatedly by several studies, which one of them is by Dr. Lauren Colenso-Semple, which has been on this podcast. I'm going to link her episode in the show notes so you can listen to it. And she was also a speaker in the Powerhouse Summit, which was my event that happened in September. But she has a whole research proving that syncing your workout to your period is not a thing. Does your cycle influence recovery, hunger, energy? Yeah, sure. But it has more to do with symptoms. So if we're going to follow something, let's follow the symptoms. If a certain phase of your period makes you feel a little bit more lethargic, kind of like if you're not feeling well, like if you have an illness or if you're getting the flu or recovering from a stomach bug, you're not going to go to the gym and go balls to the walls. But the whole idea that we are able to exactly pinpoint where each woman is in their cycle is not only not true, but if we use a little bit of common sense, it is ridiculous. Especially how many women do you know that have completely different types of cycle? I mean, the traditional is the 28 days. But for example, for me, I'm going to use myself as an example, being self-serving a little bit. I have PCOS. So my period came when it came and left when it left. I was as surprised as everything else whenever I got my period. I was like, oh, it's back. Oh, he went away. And then I never knew. So how someone who has PCOS, for example, is going to be able to track. And the research also shows that even people that have a 28-day cycle, the hormonal fluctuation would change almost like from hour to hour, based on the research conducted by Dr. Colenso-Semple. So the whole idea of syncing your training is problematic because it keeps on breaking your groove. Like, for example, let's say that you're feeling good. You might be in a certain phase of your period, but you feel good. But then whatever periodization that you're following is telling you that you need to, right now, because you are in this phase, you just need to stop lifting and do yoga. What if you wake up and you feel strong enough to just lift heavy shit? Or then you don't lift because you have this programming that assumes that you're going to feel like shit. And that kind of goes back to the thing that I was talking in the beginning as well about over-reliance on outside things to tell us how we should feel. Like we're overdated. So it might be that in that particular phase, most women feel X, Y, and Z. But what if you wake up feeling good? Then you're going to completely break your groove of progressive overload, which is the fundamental to muscle building, and that consistency piece of the puzzle show up. You're going to break that and not do anything for a number of days because that's what you're being told. And then you go back to square one. But what if the day that you're supposed to go back to square one, that's the day that you're not feeling good? Then what do? Then you have a half-hearted workout because you see what I'm saying? And another problem with that as well, now that I think about it, is like, if we're talking to a woman who is perimenopausal, right? Her period is already irregular. Her hormone is up and down, up and down, up and down. That is one of the symptoms of perimenopause. So how are we going to follow a training protocol according to someone's cycle that is already all over the shop, because we already know that her hormones are all over the shop? See what I mean? So not a thing. It's absolutely okay to go by how you feel, by symptoms. If you get like terrible cramps, it might be a good idea to maybe take a break that day and see how you feel the next day. Or if going for a walk makes you feel better, or other people might feel better doing, I don't know, yoga or actually lifting weights. Maybe you don't lift as heavy, but you still do it. So it's about trial and error and seeing what works best for your body based on your symptoms, and not based on this rigid application that if you are in this particular phase, then this is how you should feel and this is what you should do. No, that's not a thing. Number 5, the fifth lie that women are being told right now by the fitness industry is the whole like women need these women specific supplements. I'm seeing everywhere, like the whole protein for women has been around for a long time. But now we have like creatine for women and pre-workout for women. Like protein is protein, guys. Creatine is creatine. Like honestly, there is no difference. What it can happen, okay, is, for example, if you have a protein that is more for like it's targeted towards men, one thing that you can look at is look at the label, because it might be that it is a mass builder and then they put a whole bunch of carbohydrates in it because maybe that man, like the man, is wanting to gain more weight and gain more mass. But it's not that protein per se is different for men and women. It's just that the ingredients that are going to be put on that mix are going to be more targeted to what the majority of men's goals are. So for women, what can happen is that you'll be protein powder that is very lower in calories. You're probably looking at about 120 calories per scoop, 25 grams of protein, and it might have anywhere between, I don't know, like 2 and 5 grams of carbohydrates per scoop. That's a solid one, but you don't have to buy the pink one. There are several other protein powders that will have the exact same breakup, like makeup of macronutrients. They're not going to be for women. And I promise you, they are not going to have what is called the pink tax. And if you don't know what the pink tax is, I'm going to tell you right now. So basically, the pink tax is a term that is used to describe how products marketed to women tend to cost more than nearly identical products marketed to men. In fact, you're looking at about 11% more for virtually the same product, just because they have a little bit of pink or a purple package and they're targeted towards women. So just pay attention. For a lot of things, the whole idea of like, oh, this is specific for women, just read the label. I promise you that you're going to find something that is nearly identical that is going to be the same. So women don't need a specific creatine for women, a specific protein for women. Protein is protein. The next one is the number 6, the sixth lie that women are being told in the fitness industry is that this one is going to be controversial, okay? But stay with me here because context. That all women need to do is to eat more protein. That somehow that is going to be the magic portion for building muscle and maintaining muscle, and that's it. Kind of. There needs to be context, okay? I love that we are talking more about the need for protein intake, for muscle development, for muscle maintenance. But the problem is that just telling women to eat more protein, it's lacking the rest of the sentence, which is, if your goal is fat loss, just eating more protein is not going to make you lose fat if you are in a caloric surplus. So you just go and you eat a whole bunch of protein And it's like, okay, it's good because, I'm eating healthy and I'm like just eating like protein. I'm increasing my protein. Okay. But whenever you're increasing your protein, are you also increasing your caloric intake significantly? Because if that's the case, it's very unlikely that you're going to get the results that you're after if your goal is fat loss, because now you have put yourself in a caloric surplus. So instead of losing the weight, you're going to start gaining the weight. So yes, protein is important, but it needs to be within the boundaries of the caloric needs that are aligned with your goals. And another thing is that a lot of women are consuming protein thinking, if I eat protein, I'm going to build muscle. And that's not true. And here's why. Protein is going to be the repair to the muscle breakdown that happens through strength training. I'm going to say this again. Muscle is going to be built when you consume protein, and that protein goes to repair the muscle that has been broken down through resistance training, through strength training. So if you're just consuming protein without the stimulus of strength training, where it breaks down the muscle fibers and the protein comes and repairs that, which that's when muscle hypertrophy happens. Without the stimulus from resistance training, protein is not doing a whole lot whenever it comes to muscle building and muscle maintenance. You need the stimuli. It's kind of like saying that I'm just going to put more, like if I put more fuel in my car, like in my Ferrari, I'm going to drive like super fast and I'm going to have like the coolest car. Right. But you also need to turn on the car to kind of like use the gas that you just put. So the strength training is the turning on of the car so that you can then use the fuel that is going to repair the muscle, the car. Without the turning on of the key, which the turning on of the key is the strength training, it's just fuel. It's great. But what does gasoline do? Like gasoline doesn't do a whole pile if it's just sitting in the tank of the car and you don't drive anywhere. You don't utilize it. You don't make the car utilize that. And it's the same thing whenever it comes to protein consumption. And I would love to tell women that going for walks is enough to trigger that. But although walking is great, it is not enough to create the stimulus that most women need for that muscle building. You need strength training. Not telling you to stop walking, but if you think that just getting the 10,000 steps a day, you are like, you've done your exercise for the day, when your goal is muscle building, there is a disconnect. So that was number 6. Now we're going to go to number 7. And this one, I might get some pushback, but I don't care. So women shouldn't worry about the scale. We shouldn't worry about the scale. Now, like we shouldn't worry about the scale. But here's the thing. The whole throw out the scale messaging might sound freeing, but it leaves women flying blind. And what I mean by that is that it is very difficult to measure muscle, like how much muscle you've gained. And the data on how much muscle you can gain, like per month, it's not great. It's not something that we can say like with a lot of like definite, like you absolutely gain this amount of muscle. But it's a lot less than what people think. You're looking for trained individuals about a quarter pound per month. That's what you're going to be gaining. For intermediate individuals, if I can remember the data on top of my head, so I might be off slightly here, but we're looking at like half a pound per month. And it's very hard to measure that. The tool that we currently have available to measure, like to have an objective number to look at, is the scale. And for 99.9% of the women that I speak to, even if they already start from a place where they're not severely overweight, there is still a good, like a few pounds that need to be lost. And what is happening is that a lot of women are thinking that, oh, I would love to lose fat. I would love to lose weight. But because this messaging about women having to throw the scale because all the, like everything, it's muscle. It's all muscle. It's toxic. Why is it toxic? Because it's removing the ability to have data, like objective data. Feelings are not data. Vibes are not metrics. So if someone is feeling like their clothes are snug and they know they have not been compliant with their nutrition and they start a conversation with me saying, I think I've gained like about 20 pounds in the past X amount of time, or I feel like, things are spilling out of my pants, but I don't care about the scale. That's a lie. You do. You do because you start the conversation saying that you gained 20 pounds. But the whole messaging around telling women to not worry about the scale and to throw away the scale and I'm not talking about becoming obsessed about the scale and weighing yourself 70 times a day or every single day. I don't tell any of our members to weigh themselves every single day. I think it drives you crazy. And there are some members that sometimes we have to pull the scale, but it's very difficult to track progress without a starting point because otherwise we're just going to go by vibes. And we're human beings. We are human beings and women are hormonal. So some days we feel great, other days we don't feel great. So how are we going to measure objective progress when the thing that we're using to measure is very inconsistent and it can easily vary, like vibes. I mean, if you have a bad night's sleep, you're probably going to feel like shit the next day. So how are we going to objectively measure that? And it's not that the scale is an absolute. It should be used with other tracking tools such as like photos or measurements. We normally use photos and weight. So the whole idea that women shouldn't worry about the scale, it's creating some kind of delusion and it's making women fly blind. And they don't even know what they're working towards. And then they're trying to go by vibes. I want to feel good. But what does that mean? Like, what exactly does that mean? And how are we going to be able to accurately track the progression of vibes if you can change every single day? Do you see what I mean? So I really think that the whole idea of like throwing away the scale is the pendulum swinging in another extreme that is leaving a lot of women not even knowing what to ask for or being embarrassed to ask for the goal that they actually have, which is to lose fat. There's nothing wrong. And it always begins a bit like, well, I don't want to be vain. Like, who gives a shit if you want to be vain? Girl, yes. You want to look good? Awesome. I support you. But the whole, let's pretend we don't care. Let's throw away the scale and just go by vibes. I don't subscribe to that. And I think it is a lie that is being told to women because yes, the scale does matter. Is the scale absolute? No. But it is the only tool that we have right now that is easily and readily available for people to measure progress, not obsess over it, but to measure progress. Especially when we don't have a way to constantly measure muscle building because it's difficult. Because even the tools that are being utilized right now, the scale on the bathroom that measures body fat percentage, that is inaccurate. The InBody is okay, but it's still not accurate. Like, you see what I'm saying? So many things can impact that. And then you have all this data that you don't know what to do with. And then you end up going by vibes. I don't like it. I think it's terrible. And I think it's doing women more harm than good. And it's making them a bit delusional about what the goal actually is. Like if I have somebody in front of me that has to lose 50 pounds and she's like, I just want to feel good and like tone up. No, boo. Like the goal right now, I love that you want to build muscle, but the goal right now, if you're like 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds from a place where you have felt comfortable, your goal at this moment in time is fat loss, and we need a scale for it. In photos, the goal is not to tone up right now at this moment in time. We're not there yet. That doesn't mean that we're not going to lift weights. That doesn't mean that we're not going to focus on building muscle. But the primary goal at that particular time is to be able to see the muscles first. And for that, we're going to have to utilize something that is objective, such as the scale. And we're going to have objective goals, such as fat loss, because that way we're going to be able to track progress. And this might be incredibly controversial, but that's how I have found that most women become successful. in their fitness journey by being honest and by not being guided by vibes and by not being lied that the skill doesn't matter, because it does fucking matter for most women. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure that you leave a review on the platform of choice. I would love for you to leave us a review on the Apple podcast. If you do leave a review, send me a screenshot on Instagram. The link is in the show notes, and I cannot wait to see you next week. Adios. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. But let me ask you, what was your aha moment in today's episode? I would love to know. You can leave me a comment at the link in the show description. You can also follow me on social media, Instagram. Links are down below as well. And let me know what topics you want to hear more about or who I should have on the show. This is it for today, guys. I'll see you back next week for another episode of the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast.